the stories, those things my mother said. She told me fairy tales before I went to bed. She spoke of a happy endings, then tucked me in real tight. She turned my nightlight on and kissed my face goodnight. My mind was filled with visions of perfect paradise. She told me everything. She said he'd be so nice. He'd ride up on his horse and take me away one night. I'd be so happy with him. We'd ride down the side. She never said that we would curse, cry, and scream and lie. She never said that maybe someday he'd say goodbye. The story ends as stories do. Reality steps into view. No longer living life in paradise or fairy tale. She spoke about happy endings, but stories are not like this. She said you'd slay all dragons, defeat the evil prince. She said you'd come to save me, swim through the stormy seas. I understand the story, it would be good for me. You never came to save me, you let me stand alone. But in the wilderness, alone in the dark, my story ends, that story's through. Reality steps into view. No longer living life in paradise, no fairy tale.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Claston Bernard, author of the book Outcast, No Room at the Table for Conservative Blacks in Black America. And I am on the New Right Network this morning discussing fairy tales. Beautiful song by Anita Baker. That you can't get a better description of what a fairy tale is about. And before even going to that, I will say congrats to LSU Tigers. You're in the Sweet 16. It's been a long time coming. Keep it up. Now back to the fairy tales. In every fairy tale, there's always villains who parade themselves as the good people. They go to great length to villainize someone who they disagree with or someone who they don't want to get into a certain position. Anybody who is read or listened to fairy tales will, whether it's Cinderella, with the two sisters and the stepmother, just a wicked stepmother trying to just destroy Cinderella's opportunity to become a princess or an opportunity to do something great. That's typical of the fairy tale. Never ends well for the villains, but in the end, it always ends well for the person who is being assassinated or being put through the ringers or the ropes. In whatever they've been trying to stop them from accomplishing. Now, let's start with this. This is the dossier, the Steele dossier. How did we get from there to where we are today? How is it possible that we could get from there? Well, they're the emperors. Let's call them the Democrats, the emperors. Grand Weaver, Christopher Steele dossier and GPS Fusion GPS decide that someone approached them to weave this grand big story. It's just grand big story that, hey, we have some dirt. We This guy who's running for president will make sure he never see the Oval Office, and whatever we'll put in this story, whatever salacious material we can put into this document, you will have it. You name it, you will have it. Doesn't that sound like a fairy tale? Here it is. Someone petitioned Christopher Steele to produce some kind of never-ending accusation and allegations against, at the time, candidate Trump, to make sure he is never elected to office. Now, the emperor believed this. And I mean the emperor being the Democrats. They believe this. They believe this story. They believe that, hey, whether they believe it, no, this is what we will use to make sure that the current president is not elected, or if he's elected, we will destroy his presidency. So here come the weavers, and they continue to weave story. They sell it. They put it out there to CNN. You have a guy like John Brennan calling the president a treasonous person, and he should be tried and arrested for treason. You have all these stories, all these fires just all over the place. Just stories after stories. CNN, MSNBC, just the media just in general just continue to weave the story. Now, if anybody remembers the emperor, the story about the emperor having no clothes, this is kind of like that same situation. We have been saturated, just over and over and over and over again with this information. The president colluded. He colluded. People within his campaign colluded, or was in contact with the Russians. The president this. The president is a Russian agent. The president is treasonous. The president lies. The president is this. The president, and they continue to weave the webs. They weave the web, and they just keep weaving the lies. And you have the FBI director who got fired, and he said it was obstruction of they allege that it was obstruction of justice. And here we go again. Here's the president overreaching, or exerting, and his undue influence from the executive branch. Here we go, and the story is never ending. It's just a never ending fairy tale. And incredulously, you have the media continue to cheer the elected official who continue to push it. Maxine Waters, let's impeach him, impeach him, impeach him, impeachment. That's Maxine Waters for you. Or this guy Al Green that never opened his eyes. I wonder why. How can a man whose eyes are always closed can get elected to office? That should tell you something. In a deep dark state. Look at impeach him, impeach him, impeach him. That's this guy. This is an elected official. And the saga continues. It continues. And you have these guys, from Connecticut, and they just continue to weave and CNN punditry. They continue to go out and put these guys out there, these lawyers, or these supposedly experts who by the end of this, the president might not survive his term, his first term of presidency, let alone thinking about re-election. This has been the never ending, and the weavers, they go back to the start of the fairy tale, the dossier, Christopher Steele, the two weavers that approach the emperor and says, we will provide you with this beautiful, beautiful outfit that no one else will be able to say is not real. No one else will be able to say, you have something no one else has. This is what we're going to give you. This is what we're about to produce. We're about to clothe you. with such splendor that the world will marvel at their feet. Yes, we're marveling today. That much I will say. So here the Democrats been weaving the story, been weaving the story. Now, as most people know, there was a little boy who saw through this mirage and this, you know, BS that they've been pushing. And he pointed out the emperor has no clothes on. And the media and the minions go crazy. They continue to attack. They continue to just use the arm of the government to tyrannize the president and his family for saying he did not collude. There is no collusion from day one. No collusion. But they continue to weave, they continue to sell the stories. 2,800. 2,800. 500. 500. Just think about those numbers. 500 warrants. 500 witnesses. 2 years of investigation. 2 years. And it's incredulous to hear Democrats saying we need full transparency. Where is the transparency to get to the FISA court? Where was the transparency to the public? Where are the transparency to the people who, these two weavers? Why are these two weavers still free? Meaning Fusion GPS. Why is Christopher Steele, why has this been given so much credibility? Where's the full transparency behind these documents? I have a great friend of mine who says, don't buy into the hype of either side. But this is about law. This is about abuse. This is about what the Republic was created to do. Sadly, the world and this country has been put through the ringer behind fairy tales. In fairy tales, they always have to try to create a villain, while the true villains continue to bob and weave until they're exposed. Bam! Attorney Barr. There's no collusion. There's no evidence. But incredulously, they're saying, well, Mueller didn't produce or didn't rule in terms of obstruction. This again, I'm just a common man. I'm not a lawyer. But if someone didn't commit a crime and he's saying I'm innocent, and this is a witch hunt, which it's been proven to be true, how can you then allege obstruction? How can you? And then to say this is in fairness, no innocent person will stand aside and let someone drag their names or their family names through the mud without standing up or fighting. Where does that come into play? If there was no crime, how can there be obstruction? We have been told by high ranking officials, John Brennan again, when this is all said and done, there'll be lots of names we recognize. Yes, we do recognize your name, that you're a liar. Lots of names who was weaving this web of deceit in this tall, never-ending fairy tale. And as of today, it's never ending, because Pelosi and Schumer and the other minions are saying we need full transparency, and the issue of obstruction is not settled, because the whole goal is for obstruction. This is travesty. Even after the triumph of the rule of law, even with all the witnesses, even with all the evidence, most of these guys on Mueller team were Democrats, Democrat lawyers. are Democratic lawyers. There's no collusion. There was no contact between anybody from the Trump's campaign or any Russians. And the Russians are just sitting there, ha ha ha, fool ya. Yes. Seeds of discord. Alexander Solzhenitsyn warned us 40 something years ago about the Russians' tactics. They warned us about the weak politicians who will capitulate to this kind of foolishness. And they weave tall, tall stories and tales. Yes, look up Alexander Solzhenitsyn's speech before Harvard. He was booed for saying we have weak, immoral politicians who are afraid to stand up to what is right. And here we are, we have a president, President Trump, not the first president to say, make America great again. Ronald Reagan in his 1980 campaign says, let's make America great again. Bill Clinton used it, his wife used it. But here we have a president that says, make America great again, meaning I will play to the Constitution. I will play to the U.S. Constitution. I will appoint judges and officials in accordance with the U.S. Constitution. And he's being called racist. Again, it's kind of hard because these people give us so much talking point. Like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says Ronald Reagan was racist. The same thing they're saying about President Trump. One of the most successful presidents of all time was Ronald Reagan. Now, again, here is Trump doing a lot of similarities between Reagan. Right? Far supersede Reagan by the time he's finished. But here we go. The tall tales, the weaving, Reagan was racist. Now, if the president is racist in saying, I am going to do things according to the blueprint of the foundational doctrine of this great republic. No evidence, just keep regurgitating garbage. And they continue to weave. Look at the weavers. I hope you guys are seeing the turns, the weaves, and everything that and I'm going, the collusion is the center of my story. But in order for us to really, we have to look at all the other things that they are trying to do at the same time and never lose sight, because the end of the story is not just to impeach or to get rid of the president. It's to destroy the foundation, the U.S. Constitution. Is to use the progressive agenda to move America to a more progressive agenda than the founding doctrine, the foundational doctrine of American Republican government. Ronald Reagan is racist. Now you have a grifter. And like the producers of the dossier are grifters. Here you have another grifter, Elizabeth Warren. Like, again, they just give you so much material. Who scammed the country to get into law school, pretending to be a Native American Indian. Just be an American. How about that? Just be an American. That wouldn't suffice. Nobody cares, but you're a grifter. And you're out there pushing this racial argument. Now you have Bernie Sanders. Oh, your money is my money to distribute and do whatever I believe that should be done. That's Bernie Sanders' stance on what you work hard for. All these guys are, they're out there, but Elizabeth Warren and I think Holder, former Justice Holder, said the Electoral College should be abolished. I think Ocasio-Cortez, which is why I said she said follow my reasoning, was saying, well, Reagan is racist. The pretense for the Electoral College was for slavery, and I've said this before. When this country was formed, when the Constitution was ratified, I think in 1787. When it was ratified, in order for this country to be what it is today, they had to make some compromises. Slavery was never the basis for the formation of America, because half of America was part of America didn't support slavery. Never did. And there were parts of America that, at the time, or the Union, that had slaves and supported slavery. Now, I have seen professors and pundits come on TV. These are historians. These are people who are teaching your children. You see, sometimes it's better that your kids open books and read for themselves. They'll get the truth from these hacks, political hacks that are out there. They These pundits come on TV and says they said black people were 3/5 of humans. The basis again for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I wonder how the heck did she get through college? Well, then again, never mind. The basis was blacks or slaves were considered 3/5 of human. That was way back in the days. Okay, I'm going somewhere with this, and we'll come back to the collusion. Okay, these pundits, and over, there have been so many people who have clarified and explained the reason behind the 3/5 compromise. It never considered blacks 3/5 of humans. I don't care who says that. The slave holders wanted blacks, all the black votes, to count towards voting so they could maintain power in Congress. The same arguments the Democrats are using for illegal immigration today. They want illegal immigrants here to vote for them to keep them in power. It was the same thing that they were doing, the slaveholders were doing back in the day when this country was being formed. They were saying slaves are considered property rights. They're our property. They have no other purpose but to work and produce for us and to be counted as votes. Now, the northern states, or the states who didn't support slavery, said, no, you cannot count your property for voting purposes, which slaves were considered property. It's still a bad deal. But the North was saying, no, you consider them property, and because you consider them property, then property cannot vote. The only way for them to vote is to be free people. That is the only way. But you cannot have someone in bondage and then say, you can vote. Now, America was trying to form one country, not a free America and a slave-holding America. So again, the northern or the free state says no slaves vote, no votes from the slaves can count towards voting. It's a continuing, never-ending cycle. Now, in order for this country to become one republic, a compromise was reached. The compromise was 3/5 of the slave population could count towards voting purposes. They saw the guys who were against slavery saw that in order for this country to be where it is today, it had to be one America. And if they did not compromise with the slaveholders or the slaveholding state or supporters, then they would never have been able to form the America that we have today. So for voting purposes, 3/5 of the population, we were not considered 3/5 of a human being. Think about it. The slaveholders wanted slave votes to count. So if they thought that, even the slaveholders, if they thought that blacks were 3/5 of a human being, it wasn't them. It wasn't even them who suggested that. It wasn't even them. So when you listen to these pundits saying we need to abolish the electoral college, we need to abolish the electoral college because it was a pretext for slavery. Well, it was back then. I know no black persons that consider themselves 3/5 of a human being today, 2019, March 25th. No persons. Now, again, that's another tall fairy tale. You have to villainize someone, but all I'm asking people to do, look at the facts. Look at the facts. Read the history for yourself. You will see why the Democrats, and whether it's the Democrats, other people, no one is immune to doing evil. But at this point, the shoe is on the Democrats' foot. They have no policies. They have moved far left to socialistic agendas, Marxist philosophies. That is what they've been pushing. So the only way for them to be able to destroy the presidency is to get two grifters, Fusion GPS and the Steele dossier, and produce it to as many media personnel, to many Democrats, elected official, and says, "Ha! I told you the only way he could have he could have beaten this flawed Democratic candidate was by colluding with the Russian." That's a very serious charge. It's a very disturbing charge. And listening to them and reading the headlines and the news, the story of the day today is like, oh no, this is still obstruction. The Attorney General and his deputy said there's no basis for it. There has to be reckoning. There has to be a reckoning for such deception to the American public. Someone is a couple $1 million richer from this investigation. He said $45 million was spent. What will the reckoning be? With every fairy tale, it never ends well for the villains. And here we go again. Are we going to be captivated by this villainy any longer? Or will America move to repudiate? Will the public rise up and say, enough of this tyranny? This is the problem with big government. This is the reason against big government. Corruption, because now you have people looking out for their own self-interest. Comey, John Brennan, the news media, people running for president, the Democratic Party. They have been exposed. They have no clothes on. But the lies continue. It continue and it continue, and it will continue to cycle day in, day out. Or they'll be looking for something else, which they already are. They're individuals' responsibility, which is a bedrock of this great republic. People point out that, oh, many people have been convicted. And I've raised this point to a friend of mine recently. If you have associates or if you have friends who have committed crimes as individuals, does that make you complicit? Does that make you, and does that make you a perpetrator of that crime or criminal activities? You can move into whatever directions you want to. I'm talking not willfully or not accompanying. I'm using in that situation. So if you have associates working for you that have committed criminal atrocities or activities in their own spare time, should you as an individual be implicated by knowing this person? And this is what the arguments they're putting for. How many people have been convicted and indicted? That means the president is guilty? This is ludicrous. It's a ludicrous argument. It's a travesty to see how people will continue to spin these tale and weave these webs of deception and lies. This is not deception anymore. It would, even a blind man can see all of that. This just doesn't add up. But that's what they're pointing to all these who got indicted. Justice need to be served. And the people who have orchestrated this evil should pay dearly for it. They should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, because this is what they were trying to do to another person. That's the beauty about fairy tales. The villains never walk away scot-free. The people who was bobbing and weaving and doing whatever, they never walk away scot-free. That is where we need to go with this today. There's no reason to go into the details, keep going back and forth of who said this or the president this. You don't like, we get it. Some people just don't like to be told no. Some grown men just don't like to be told no. Oh, your speech offend me. And I've said this, grow some balls. You have people, one of my favorite stories, one of my favorite is Aesop, the man and his donkey. Uh, Democrats, donkeys. Okay. This man had his donkey, and him and his son decided to take the donkey to the market. Well, that donkey will give them all that they need, at least to help them out of the predicament that they are in. So they need the donkey to, they need to sell a donkey to earn a living. So they pass a group of people up. And on their way, they passed a group of people up, and they started laughing. Look at these two men leading this strong donkey. So the man put his son on. They come up to another group of people who look and says, look at that young strapping boy and this donkey while his old man is leading this donkey. He should be ashamed of himself. They started laughing. So the man and his son got on the donkey, and they kept riding along. They come up on another group of people. When they come up on this group of people, they started laughing at the man and his son and saying, poor beast, oh, poor beast, he's struggling. The beast of burden is struggling. You should be so ashamed of yourself. So by this time, the man and his son they came up with this grand idea. Let's get a pole and tie the donkey to the pole, and we'll put the donkey over our shoulder. Now, again, already you can see how illogical this is. The beast of burden, designed to help carry load. They are strong enough to carry significant amount of load. But now they have decided that they will invert the purposes, which sounds like the Democrats with reinvention of rights and all that other kind of stuff. It just seemed to be, and how fitting is the symbol of the Democratic Party, the donkey. The donkey. And the people who are carrying this donkey just doesn't seem to get it. They're always been influenced. They're always been influenced by popular, not by truth, not by logic, but by popular opinions. So they have this donkey. Do 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 do. Here we go. Here we go. They come up on another group of people. Started laughing. By this time, they were by a bridge, and these people started laughing hilariously, and they were just hysterical in their laugh, which they should have been. It's idiotic. This is a symbol. That is the symbol of the Democratic Party holding the Steele dossier, this allegation, this Mueller investigation into the president. This is the Democrats now. They coming up. Oh, here we go. And you have John Brennan, and you have all these pundits. You have CNN and MSNBC and all these pundits out there saying, oh, yeah, we have him now. And they're carrying their donkey. Look at us carrying. This is a symbol. Look at them carrying. The people laughing. And at this time, one of the donkey's foot got loose. And he started kicking. He started kicking. And he started kicking. Well, the donkey eventually got loose and fell over the bridge. And you know what happened? He fell in the water and he drowned. They lost it because they were illogical. The man and his son was illogical. The Steele dossier, Fusion GPS, John Brennan, and a lot of the Democratic operatives were illogical. They were led by passion, not reasons or facts. And because of that, they have eggs in their faces this morning. They have crap on their faces this morning as a result of tying their donkey to a pole and trying to bring it across a bridge among a hysterical group of people. There was no collusion to begin with. The president was duly elected by the public. The electoral college served its purpose. It is not perfect, but it did. People rejected Hillary Clinton, but because of self-interest, because of self-preservation, these politicians look for a scapegoat because there was no way a President Trump could have won his presidency. You have Republicans, you have Democrats, you have all these personals who are trying to, they will sit there and listen to Oprah who will say, be yourself. But the president is being who he is. And he's been very conservative in the way that he's running this country in terms of social values. He is being himself. And they're talking, men like Romney are, I have to keep going back at them. And Paul Ryan is talking about the man's rhetoric. Come on. Real men don't get involved in those things in terms of trying to tell a man that you can't speak a certain way because you disagree with him. And we're not talking about the whole drama of people producing videos and all that. I'm talking about the fact that he has a right to fight for what he believes. You might not like his rhetoric, but grow a pair and see through the nuances. He's not perfect. No one is. They have tied, the Democratic Party have tied their whole party on a salacious, and some salacious documents that was produced to them by grifters, who was supported by grifters, who was disseminated by grifters. That's the Democratic Party. That is what they have done instead of looking to principles, instead of, irrespective of how you want to feel, you have to respect the rule of law. There's been no evidence, none, nada, zilch of collusion. None. That should be the end of the story. But here we are, even with the donkey over the bridge now, they continue to try to spin and weave. You have been left wanting, you have been found wanting, and at this time, I am hoping that the American public will see through this filth. Mr. President, I applaud you for standing for the American people and standing for what is right. This is Claston Bernard with the New Right Network signing off.